We now have another song from Kia. Kia is going to sing a song called Going Home, and it is bringing us into part of our next part of our service, which is remembering our ancestors and those who've gone before us.
In researching this song and playing the song, I heard Paul Robeson's version. And to say that that man was a baritone is an understatement, because that was going home, I'm a-going home, quiet like some still day, I'm just going home. It's not far, just close by, through an open door. Work all done, cares laid by, gone to roam no more. Mother's there expecting me, father's waiting too. Lots of folks gathered here, all the friends I knew. Morning star lights the way, restless dreams all done. Shadows gone, break of day, real life just begun. There's no break, there's no end, just a living on, wide awake with a smile, going on and on. Going home, I'm just going home. It's not far, just close by, through an open door.
Thank you, Kia. That was really nice. I'm going to invite Joan Graduate Thomas to come forward and tell us, just to let us know what's happening after our service so you can know what's coming up. Let's give her a round of applause.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Wanted to let you know that for the second year in a row, Pastor Jim and St. Paul's has opened their doors to allow for a celebration of Indigenous cultures. October 9th, I think it was Indigenous Culture Day, and today represents International Indigenous Culture Day. And so we are going to have a very brief ceremony, service, event where we will have food that is representative of Indigenous cultures, as well as a performance of traditional dance by an Indigenous member of our community. We're also going to have, hopefully, a speaker who is going to give us some more insight into her own family's ancestry as a member of the Indigenous people, and a brief Q&A, as well as an explanation of the history and meaning of Dia de los Muertos. So we hope you can join us and stay here with us to learn more and to celebrate Indigenous culture. Thank you.
So we have our Aztec dancers with us today. So they're going to explain to us what they're doing, and they're also going to tell us about Dia de los Muertos. When you came in, you saw the ofrenda that was set up. So today's celebration is sponsored by St. Paul's and by Congregation Knesset Tiferet Israel, and by the Portchester Historical Society. That's Kiki back there from the Historical Society, who's helped us. She's put the banner and the kids' activities and the informational signs up. also sponsored by the Portchester Rye NAACP. So we've done that for 2 years in a row. We're very glad to work together with our community leaders. I see the Mayor of Portchester, Louis Marino, is here. Good morning, Mayor.
Is Tom here? I don't see Tom. We are going to now present Indigenous dance presented by a group and members of the Mexican indigenous culture. They're going to come up here and perform for us, and then we will provide a brief history and understanding of the Dia de los Muertos as a celebration. So after that, we'll have, hopefully, be able to hear from Teresa Vega and have her help us understand her ancestry as an Indigenous member. So to offer on the Day of the Dead is to share with the deceased bread, salt, fruits, culinary delights, water. To offer is to be close to our dead, to dialogue with their memory, with their life. The offering is the reunion with a ritual that summons memory, one of the key elements of Day of the Dead.
Hi everyone, my name is Xochitl. Thank you. My name is Xochitl. We are the Aztec dancers. We are the Calpuli, la Santa Cruz del Caminante. We dancing in different places in New York, New Jersey, Virginia, Pennsylvania. We are traditional Aztec dancers. Celebramos el Día de Muertos. Celebramos Día de Muertos
They celebrate the Day of the Dead
cada año
every year
porque esperamos que nuestros ancestros que ya fallecieron
because
vengan a compartir con nosotros.
they wait for their ancestors that have passed away to come back and celebrate with us.
Y ponemos una ofrenda, un altar,
We put up special
Food.
a special offer, a stand with food.
Como pueden ver, hay una mesa ahí atrás.
As you can see, there's a table behind you.
Eso es un poco de lo que ponemos para nuestros ancestros, cosas que les gustaban.
That is some of the stuff that we put for our ancestors, stuff that they liked,
Como comida o su bebida favorita.
like food or their favorite drink.
No sin olvidar el incienso, el copal. Incienso.
Oh God. Please.
Ponemos a través de los rezos, a través de las veladoras, rezos para nuestros ancestros.
So they put down candles down for their ancestors.
Esto lo hacemos año con año
They do this year after year
porque sabemos que la muerte es parte de la vida.
because we know death is part of life,
Y eso pasa también en la naturaleza,
and that just happens naturally
en todo ser viviente.
to be alive.
Todos tenemos que nacer, crecer y morir. Ese es el lema en cuanto a las tradiciones indígenas.
We all have to be born, grow up, and die. That's just life.
En la mesa que tenemos allá pueden ver una representación hecha en barro de lo que simboliza lo que es la vida de un humano. Nacer, crecer y morir.
And a table behind you that shows what life is like to be born, grow up, and die.
Bueno, vamos a hacer una danza en honor a lo que estamos transmitiendo, en lo que estamos tratando de que ustedes entiendan.
So now they will do a special dance to show you what they're trying to do.
Y después continuamos a explicar otro poquito y vamos a hacer otra danza. Muchas gracias por su atención.
And then we'll explain a little bit more and do more dances. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for the translation.
Yeah.
¿Puedes sentar aquí? Esta danza que acaban de ver es la danza del sol.
This dance that you've just seen is the dance of the sun.
Es una parte de que cada ser humano tiene que llevar en su caminar en esta vida.
It's a dance to show that every human has to grow up and walk over their lifetime.
En la cosmología indígena pensamos, cuando se celebra el Día de Muertos es cuando ellos vienen a visitarnos.
The cosmology indigenous,
Los que ya fallecieron vienen a visitarnos, los que ya murieron vienen a visitarnos.
the ones who've passed away come back and visit us.
Y es una celebración que se hace en todo el país, en todo México y afuera de ellos. Estamos llevando las tradiciones también a donde vamos.
This is a tradition and a celebration that is celebrated in the entire country of Mexico, and it is spreading to everywhere that they go.
La Organización de las Naciones Unidas proclamó el Día de Muertos
The organization of the national countries made this a holiday
como Patrimonio Cultural de la Humanidad,
as a culture for like Mexico,
por las formas que llevamos y entendemos que la muerte es parte de la vida.
so we could show you that death is just part of life.
No sé si algunos tienen alguna pregunta que quisieran decirnos.
Does anyone have any questions?
Everyone?
I think they have lots of questions.
Is there special food that you prepare for the Day of the Dead? ¿Hay comida especial que preparar?
¿Cómo?
Que si hay comida especial que
Oh,
preparan.
sí, hay comida especial que le gustaba a las personas que ya fallecieron y que estamos honrando.
Yes, there are some special foods that we prepare if that person who passed liked that food.
En especial en México lo que se pone son mole, tamales, chocolate, café.
So we have a bunch of soups, chocolate, bread, whatever that person liked is what we put on their offering stand.
Y no pueden faltar también lo que se cosecha de los campos, como calabazas y el maíz principalmente, que es la parte importante de la comida.
We also put like ingredients for food like pumpkins, flour, which is very important to cook a lot of food.
A través de ello, a través de mostrar las plantas en el altar también damos gracias de que tenemos comida.
Other than showing plants and flowers like stuff, we also show our gratitude to them.
En el altar de muertos simboliza los 4 elementos naturales que nos dan vida.
And the offering stand, they show the 4 elements that give us life.
Y damos gracias a ellos, como son el aire,
We appreciate that, which is air,
tierra,
earth,
agua
water,
y fuego.
and fire.
Y agradecemos a ellos también, fuera de lo que es la danza para Día de Muertos, agradecemos en cada danza, porque son parte de nosotros, son parte vital para sobrevivir, para seguir viviendo.
We show thank yous in other ways than just dancing. We also have multiple ways to show our gratitude towards him with the dances that we do.
En el altar de muertos lo que simboliza el viento son los papeles picados, papel picado que usamos de muchos colores.
One of the ways that we show one of the elements of air is some of the paper that we cut.
El elemento agua lo ponemos en un vaso
The element of water, we put it in a cup.
y también es para los que nos visitan, que ya no vemos, vienen con sed y es para ellos.
And it's also for our ancestors who come back here thirsty and they can use that cup and drink whatever it is that they want.
Las plantas y las frutas que se recolectan en las cosechas a estos tiempos simbolizan la tierra.
The plants, flower, and fruits that we collect and we put on the offering stand, that symbolizes earth.
Y el fuego se representa en una que se llama sahumador. Se llama sahumador y es aquí donde se guarda el sagrado fuego y se cuida el fuego.
And to represent fire, we put it in there to show the internal fire that
Y que
represents us.
a través del sagrado fuego es como damos gracias a los elementos naturales y al creador de todo.
And that's a way we show thank you to all the elements and our Creator.
Y decimos gracias por la vida, gracias porque también existe la muerte y gracias porque estamos aquí.
And that says thank you for everything, thank you for the death, and thank you for everything that we receive.
Bueno, vamos a hacer otras dos danzas y explicamos cómo vamos a cerrar la danza y el tiempo de estar aquí con ustedes. Muchas gracias.
They will do 2 more dances and then they will explain how they will close the show with one final dance. Thank you.
We are the Aztec dancers, la Santa Cruz del Caminante. Somos venimos de diferentes lugares.
So we've come from different places.
Algunos viven en Long Island,
Some of us live in Long Island,
otros en Pensilvania,
some in Pennsylvania,
Queens,
Queens,
el Bronx,
Bronx,
White Plains.
White Plains.
Y así para lograr juntar un grupo de compañeros danzantes,
And
vienen de diferentes partes.
to make a group like this, you know, we all come from different places.
No es fácil lograr juntarnos muchos porque realmente somos pocos los danzantes tradicionales.
It's difficult to gather like this because there aren't many traditional dancers like this left.
Espero que haya sido de su agrado un poco de la información que se les dio.
I hope you're at least a little bit appreciative of the information we have given you,
Porque la información acerca de Día de Muertos es infinita, la información que tendríamos que dar, que nos llevaría muchísimo tiempo hablar sobre eso.
because the amount of information that we have over the Day of the Dead is infinite. Will take so long explaining everything.
Agradezco infinitamente al señor, al padre Jim y a Miss Joan por invitarnos a este lugar año con año. Muchísimas gracias.
We're infinitely grateful for
Mr. Jim y Miss Joan.
Mr. Jim and Miss Joanne.
Y esperamos haya sido de su agrado y nos vemos próximamente. Si tienen alguna pregunta pueden hacerla con confianza, de verdad.
And thank you for giving us your time. And if you guys have any sort of questions, please ask us.
¿Alguien tiene preguntas, Samba?
Anyone have questions?
Bueno, pueden pasar a ver la mesa que está allá al final donde tenemos las banderas de México y la ofrenda, la pequeña ofrenda que se hace pero que trae los elementos que son parte importante de un altar de muertos.
You guys could go to the back where the table where the two Mexican flags are, so you could see just a little bit of what our offering stands look like.
Muchísimas gracias por su atención a todos.
And thank you so much for your attention, everybody.
Y vivan y disfruten la vida,
And enjoy and go live your life to the fullest,
que no sabemos cuándo tenemos que partir de este lugar.
because we don't know when it will be our turn to pass away.
Vivamos con alegría. Gracias.
Thank you.
So we're not done yet. That's the first part.
Excuse me. Thank you for that. I think that we need to put our hands together again for the dance group. Thank you so much. And there is in the back. I'm sorry? Yes, thank you, Tyler, for translating. And I'd also like to just make sure that, in addition to thanking the dancers for coming together, this is not an easy thing. As Soshil said, folks are coming from far and wide to come together to dance together. It is a sacred opportunity. It is a great opportunity for us to experience this and to appreciate how much goes into, putting something like this together. You can see the dress and the colorfulness and the intricacy that went into creating the dress for this. And so I thank Blanca, Soshil, very much for taking the time and coming to do this. And as we approach that fun holiday of Halloween, to remember that this is not a costume to wear for Halloween. This is a sacred tradition that we need to honor and recognize. And I would like to also thank Pastor Jim, as well as keeping short of the Portchester Historical Society, for pulling this together. As I mentioned earlier, this is our second year, and we hope to have bigger and longer celebrations as the years go by. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. Next, I'm going to bring up Tom Kistner, who is the president of the Portchester Ride branch of the NAACP. and he is going to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Joan. A few years ago, I had the good fortune to meet a young lady who is a genealogist and has traced her own roots back. She is, in fact, a descendant of both the Caucasians, the African Americans, and the indigenous people who once, centuries ago, occupied this land we are now sitting on. Thank you, Teresa.
I'm happy to be here today in celebration of Native American Heritage Month. I say to you, Anushik, thank you in the Lenape language of my maternal ancestors. I also say to you, Miari, greetings in the language of my paternal Taino ancestors. Just a warning, I'm in a church in front of a mic. My Baptist roots might come up every now and then. To all those gathered here today, I want to make it clear that Indigenous descendants of those who were the first people of Lenape-Hoking are still here. The myth of our Indigenous extinction is just that, a myth. While genocide, slavery, and dispossession did occur, some of us survived and have lived many days to tell our ancestral stories and to tell those stories of how we resisted. The history of my ancestors is a history tied to this very place, a place that was called Mahikanatuk, an area that extended from Westchester, Dutchess, and Putnam counties on this side of the river. I'm also the descendant of the Siwanoy, the Manhattans, the Sing Sing, the Kitchewan, the Pogasets, the Mohawks, the Nipmunks, the Narragansetts, the Wampanoags, the Pequots, and many others. My ancestors were part of the Wappinger Federation that existed on both sides of the river up into Columbia County, New York. The myth of our indigenous extinction is rooted in paper genocide. To dispossess people of their land, settlers erased them on paper. They were called anything but Native American and children of God. My ancestors were recorded as Black, Negro, free people of color, mulatto, colored, and white on official government documents. The category race was recorded by census enumerators from the first census up until the 1950 census. This resulted in us being hidden in plain sight. For over 20 years, I've traced my ancestors. Genealogy is not a hobby as it is for some. It's a vehicle I use to follow the clues that my ancestors have given me in order to write their history. Combining genealogy and history is not easy. I've cried many tears over what I've read. And I've been left sometimes, to be honest, with the anger that comes with bearing witness to what my ancestors have been through. I've always believed that there is no separation between those who live here on earth and those who reside and have transitioned on. My ancestors embraced all beliefs. They embraced their own religious beliefs. They were members of the Dutch Reformed Church, the Presbyterian Church, the Episcopal Church, the Lutheran Church, and they also founded the AME and the AME Zion churches, the colored Presbyterian churches, and Black Baptist churches. I refuse to believe that the physical death each and every one of us experience is the end all. In fact, it is in many ways the beginning of a new life. If I remember correctly, St. Paul offered up a lot of words of comfort, did he not? Did he not say, if God is for us, who can be against us? Did he not say, we walk by faith, not by sight? And did he not say, that is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults, in hardships, in persecution, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Can I get an amen? He said that. And it's the stories of my ancestors' resistance that has allowed me to keep up the fight in their honor. I've been working for the past 20 years with my cousin, Andrea, who lives in California. We only turn to DNA testing to break down brick walls, knowing very well that DNA does not equal culture. DNA cannot tell you which tribe your ancestors were from. DNA does not reflect the so-called race you may appear to be. One of the things when we turned to DNA we found was that our second great-grandmother, her maternal line originated in Madagascar. Yet another place that is intimately tied to Westchester County, to colonial New Amsterdam in New York, to New Netherlands. When we think of Westchester, we think of people like Frederick Phillips, Jacobus Van Cortlandt, Peter Schuyler, Rip Van Dam, Khaled Heathcock, and many others who were involved in the New York to Madagascar, as well as the transatlantic slave trade. There would be no coastal communities here if it wasn't for the shipping industry, the privateering that went on, if it wasn't for the whaling industry, the bringing back up and down the Hudson River of goods to the city and elsewhere, the taking of granite from Columbia Greene County and Byram especially to build the Brooklyn Naval Yard. This community is tied to a history that's tied to a river, and we occupied both sides of the river. While these people may have been the creme de la creme of Dutch and British society, they were also the enslavers of my ancestors. And some were actually enslaver ancestors of mine. People often live multifaceted and often completely contradictory lives. The enslaved labor of Native and African people is what built this country. As the number of indigenous people dwindled, settlers turned to an enslaved African workforce. The forced migration of 12 million people of African descent also corresponded with the forced removal of between 2 and 5.5 million indigenous people from their homelands to other parts of the world. My family adopted various strategies of survival and strategies of resistance. In my family, it was through the marriage of indigenous women to men of African, mixed race, and European descent. Munsee Lenape are matrilineal, and women are and were the cultural bearers. They passed down their culture to their children. When I started doing genealogy research with Andrea, we discovered that our family had 4 Underground Railroad houses, one in Newark, New Jersey, one in Peekskill, New York, one in Rochester, and one in Buffalo. We've always wondered, how did we descend from so many Underground Railroad station masters? What is it about our family legacy of resistance are we missing? For the past 2 years, I have been focused on one goal, and that is lockdown in this area. Last year, in April of 2022, I went into lockdown mode, trying to find documents on my five times great-grandfather Samuel Freeman, who was a black patriot. That was my goal in April. By the end of the year, it always seems like last quarter of the year, our ancestors want to give out early Christmas presents. So in finding Samuel, we found his wife. Finding Sarah in her christening record took my line back to New Amsterdam, to one of the first 11 Angolans, to some of the first enslaved Malagasy, the first Afro-Dutch, and of course, Munsee Lenape. By the end of the year, we also located my fourth times great-grandfather, Samuel Piggery, which provided me with my own direct link to the Ramapo Lenape. And he was, Sam Piggery, born circa 1765. We do believe that we've located his father, who is a black loyalist named Anthony Piggott, who was born in Massanucas, the indigenous Lenape name of Mawa, where today Chief Turtle Clan member Vincent Mann is my cousin. This year, I went into lockdown mode again, around the same time, because I told myself I needed to start writing articles in peer-reviewed journals. So I've been doing that, and over the course of doing that, especially these last 2 months, we have made leaps and bounds. As has been the case for the past 5 years, the last quarter of the year, critical family discoveries have been made. I've always taken this as a sign that my ancestors on high are still guiding me. In September, we discovered a majority European DNA cousin who was also 2% African, 1% Native American, who descended from a black patriot ancestor. That person was from North Salem in Bedford, Westchester County. We shared DNA also with 6 or 7 members of her family. I contacted her, wasn't too sure if she'd get back to me, but I told her, hey, can we discuss Isaac Sharp? I'm related to you and all these people through his son Henry. What can you tell me about Isaac? Here's a little bit of my background. Thank God in the highest, she responded immediately, and she said, I'm in my declining years. I'm 80 years old. I'd be happy if you could tell me a little bit more about my Northeast lineage. She lives in Phoenix. She said that when she sent away for her second great-grandfather's Civil War pension and it came back black, she was like, wait a minute, that can't be. And then she took a DNA test years later, and then she went back and said, oh my, I think there's something true. My cousin Billy was generous enough to allow me, when I asked her, can you make me a collaborator on your matches so I can find out a little bit more? I'll share it with you. She said, go ahead, girl. Within a week, I had to call her back. And I said, you know what? You got heavy Dutch background. Oh, no, I don't. I'm Swiss. I'm British. Let me explain. I then told her I found 25 plus Ramapo Lenape relatives we had in common, some who tied to my own fourth-time great-grandfather, Samuel Piggery. I went back and I had to look, and I had to research further, and I located not only Isaac Sharp, but in researching his wife, Amy Mooney, I discovered that there were 2 other patriots who served in the 2nd Connecticut Regiment. 3 of them, Isaac Sharp, Absalom, and John Mooney, are not in Daughters of the American Revolution's book, Forgotten Patriots, a book that lists all of the Native American patriots. Going back to local history books, because I believe in going hyper-local, I was able to restore them to history. They will now be forever known as the Kitchewan Wappinger Federation Patriots from Westchester County. This past Wednesday, I gave a webinar for the National Conference of the Afro-American Historical Genealogical Society on Repairing Erasure, Indigenous Identity and Paper Genocide. An article by the same title would be followed in their January edition. I'm going to close now, but I'm going to leave this with you. I want to close by telling you all this. In the past 2 months, so much darkness. When I say darkness, I'm discussing the silences that are in the archives of history that have erased our stories. So much has come to light. Along with uncovering our shared history with Cousin Billy, going back looking at all our M23 Malagasy MT DNA matches, which originated here in Westchester, and by why DNA testing, a descendant of my 4 times great-grandfather, Anthony Green of Greenwich, Connecticut. We've found a DNA trail backed up with a paper trail. DNA and paper trail, the best combination, that tells the story of our ancestors and how they built the paths that led to the places of freedom and places of refuge for enslaved African and Native peoples. We have a DNA trail that goes from Long Island to Connecticut, New York, Vermont, up to the Berkshires and Franklin counties of Massachusetts, onward to Canada. We have a DNA trail that also starts in the Ramapo Mountains, goes up to the river to Albany and onward to Canada. We have a DNA trail that cuts across Fairfield County, Connecticut, and Westchester, Dutchess, Putnam counties, New York. And not only goes to Albany in Canada, but also crosses New York State and lands upstate New York and eastern Pennsylvania. We have a DNA trail that goes from New York to Buffalo to Rochester, Michigan, Ohio, and onward to Canada. Because of these findings, I now have a working title for my long talked about book. That book will be called The Afro-Indigenous Roots of the Underground Railroad, and it starts here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Rabbi Ben Goldberg is here. Let's welcome him. Rabbi Ben Goldberg. I just want to say to the rabbi that our hearts go out to your community during this very difficult time. We have 2 candles up here remembering October 7th, remembering the people who died and the people who are still hostages from that day. So we continue to hold you all in our prayers. Thank you all very much. Please get some guacamole and some salsa and some tortilla and do some of the crafts.